All right, and thank you for joining me. This is Socialmatica's Social Election 2012. We're going to just do a quick review of each of the Republicans' performance as of today. This runs every day. This is our social performance tool, and we've been running this particular campaign since 12/25. The target company, or target, social identity is Newt Gingrich. It doesn't mean that we think he's in the lead or going to be in the lead or anything like that. It just happens to be the first social identity we entered into the tool. And what we're seeing here is his trends for Twitter followers, YouTube views, video views, and also Facebook likes. Very marginal gains here, by the way, for him in particular, but we can look at some other interesting information in a second here. And then I'll jump over to the Trends tab as soon as I get a chance. But what we're looking at here is a brand efficacy chart, and so really the person who's running one of the most balanced campaigns actually happens to be Newt right now. From a social perspective, Rick Perry is doing quite well in terms of overall activity. Ron Paul has a very strong campaign because he has one of the strongest amounts of content, but also one of the stronger social campaigns. And then Mitt Romney's behind him, not quite as social in that perspective. So this is a good way of plotting information when we want to look at an overall efficacy standpoint. And then the size of the ball is actually the traffic. They're all in similar ranges, so that's why there's not much difference there. So shared domain traffic looks like, wow, it really looks like Newt is way out in front with 634,000 thereabouts unique visitors, which is kind of interesting because why does he, it's not really explained why he has that amount of visitors, but we could probably find out if we really investigated hard enough. And then social share of mentions. So again, explaining what we're going to see in the vertical point tool, which is that Mitt Romney and Ron Paul are leading. The share of mention that they have relative to their brand name on blogs, news, search, and Twitter, Ron Paul and Mitt Romney are just kind of neck and neck, which is why I explained in our other tool how vertical point is actually tracking the candidates for influence. That's one of the factors that matters. And then this is kind of interesting. So from an audience standpoint, Ron Paul has about 20% of the overall digital audience. Now, this is really interesting because most times we're measuring brands, but in this case we're actually measuring an election candidate and their audience. So these are real voters. It's not likely that people like and follow Ron Paul and Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich. It's possible, but not really likely if you think about it, because people tend to be dogmatic. But then Jon Huntsman, this is kind of interesting. So from a social standpoint, Jon Huntsman really doesn't have that much of an audience at all, and neither does Rick Santorum. So all this thing that has been made up about Rick Santorum, about him, really being third or should be second if Ron Paul wasn't in the way, is kind of interesting because socially, online, he really doesn't have that much of an audience. And why is that? Well, these are questions we can try and dig into. Now, these are the various keywords that Newt Gingrich is bidding on. His campaign is bidding on for his top domain. So, quite interesting. Mitt Romney president. That's his top keyword. And he also has the most traffic. Interesting. I would love to see Newt Gingrich's bounce rate, by the way. Just something to think about. And then actually we lay out the specific network statistics here. We've got visitors, YouTube views, Facebook likes, Twitter followers, percent change of activity volume and shares mentioned day over day, some search results and things like that. So one other quick thing to look at is let's look at the trends. Okay, so I would really like to think about, so it's only been running for 3 weeks, but one interesting thing for Newt Gingrich is that there was a big spike last week, 162,000 events, and now he's down to 54,000. That's something to think about. Let's look at Ron Paul. Oh, he's just screaming. He's screaming. So when it started at 0, right, because there's no trend, right, up to 477,000, up to 742,000. So he's just screaming. Really going to be interested to see what happens next week. Let's jump into Mitt Romney. Twitter mentions are down. How much? Oh, pretty significantly. About half, almost half. And social share I've mentioned down overall. He had about 18% of the share. Now he's down to 5 as of this week. And he's also, he's got a nice hockey stick going on here, but look at where he's at relative. I mean, it's only 304,000, so that's not very much. That's not very much at all compared to the field of players. So that's the overall performance. Generally speaking, I still think what we're seeing here is I didn't mean to do that. Generally think what I think we're seeing here is that Mitt Romney and Ron Paul are really, in fact, the leaders. Rick Perry might be somebody to look out for because he's got something going on that's kind of special right now socially. So that'd be something to keep our eye on. And then Newt Gingrich, he's got a heck of a lot of traffic, so I'd really like to know why that is. All right, let's jump into the vertical point tool and talk about influence.